Good evening, how are you tonight? Good. First of all, thank you so much for coming. I greatly appreciate it. Your kids are entering another time of their life. They went from 4th to 5th grade. I know it's stressful. I have a 5th grader myself currently, so I know what that's like. There's all these 7 classes, and now they're going from 6th to 7th, and there's just more stuff, and in just 2 quick years, they're going to be going to 9th grade, and you'll have that stress even more. So please realize that our school does have a Facebook page, they have an Instagram page, they have Twitter. A lot of information is posted on our website. This video right now, this presentation is going out live feed and will be recorded and will be available to you tomorrow. If you missed something, you have a question, you have a friend that missed it, you're welcome to watch it online as well. My name is Brian Miles, by the way, and I am the current 7th grade counselor, and I will be the 8th grade counselor next year. Mr. Matkins is the 7th grade counselor for next year. He is stuck in Atlanta. He went to the inauguration with a group of kids from our school. And when they flew out, they got to Atlanta, and the storm said, nope, you're staying here. And so he couldn't make it tonight, but normally he would present tonight, but I'm going to fill in for him, but he's going to be your kiddo's counselor. This is a night that I am going to answer all your questions, and there will be times that I may stop to ask some general questions, and if you would please, during the presentation, if you have a question, please keep it kind of broad and general. I like those because sometimes I'll forget to say something, and you may trigger something that I need to tell all you guys. But just keep your questions broad and general. Then I'm going to stay up here at the end of the presentation until all your questions are answered. If you have the patience to wait, I will stay here and answer all your individual questions about your kids. So. And I always like to say this to our incoming 7th grade parents, is that you probably know this already. I don't know when you guys have decided, or maybe haven't decided, to have your children have devices. But it's coming around that time, and you have got to stay plugged into your kids and their life and what they're doing in our school. And we have a home access center and all the different things that we have available to us. But some people feel that this is time that they need to kind of go off on their own. But in reality, they're not ready for that yet. That'll be maybe 10th, maybe 11th grade. But for now, please stay plugged in. Please call us. Please let us know your concerns. Make sure you're following up with your schoolwork. All those things. Stay plugged in because the kids are definitely plugged in. As you probably are well aware of that. Like I said, I have a 5th grader, and oh my gosh, he wears me out with his device. But just some quick introductions. Mrs. Ray, who's probably not here this evening, she is one of our assistant principals. She's on the far left. You like my superimposed picture? It's not that bad.
I look like a gnome or something.
That's Mrs. Pamal. She's actually going to be your student's principal next year, is what I expect. And the reason we had to superimpose a picture is I didn't have a picture of all of us from last year, and it involved Miss Scott, who is now the Cypress Grove head principal. And so I asked one of our 8th graders, I said, I need to get rid of the background on this picture. They're taking computer lit this year. And they said, oh yes, just click that click, show me how to do it. So I stuck her in there. So yeah, she looks a little odd in that picture. But anyway, Mr. Mann is in the middle, and he's this gentleman right over here. He's our head principal, has been for a few years now. Mrs. Fagan is the next lady. She should be right here. She will be the 8th grade principal next year. That other studly looking man right there is myself. And Mr. Matkins, and by the way, when you meet Mr. Matkins, he's really not as big in this picture as he looks in this picture. Man, he looks like a football player. He's tall, but he's not that much bigger than us. But that is Mr. Matkins, and he is in Atlanta this evening. So, okay, this is what your students received Friday. They got a course description guide. They have a registration sheet. And what I want to point out to that is on page 2, there is a frequently asked question sheet. It's on in your course description guide. It's also in the handout we gave you if you happen to get a handout. But they're in the guide, and it's also on the handout. But that'll answer a lot of your questions. If you just glance through that, that might help you in making your decisions for registration. Oh, I'm sorry. All of these documents are available online. You go to the A&M Consolidated Middle School Counseling page, and you go to registration. At the very bottom of that page will be this presentation eventually. You'll have a course description guide, a PDF form that has the registration sheets. So if your student loses them, we don't have a whole lot of extra books, but the registration sheets can be printed online. Of course, they won't be yellow. I don't really care what color they're turned in, but so print off as many as you need. And there's some other forms that we'll talk about that are also available on that page. Okay, this is kind of a big one. Where's the nurse? I want to make sure she's here before I start talking, because I am not a nurse. But there are some 7th grade immunizations that are required prior to your student attending school as a 7th grader. We say that again. There are some immunizations that are required prior to your student attending school as a 7th grader. These are these two immunizations, Tdap and meningococcal. Make sure you get those. You need to have a record of those. You need to get them to the nurse, and because that will expedite everything for you as far as like when we come in August to get your schedule. She won't have to check you off that list. You will have already done that, and that way we won't have any problems. We can't give you your schedule unless your student has their immunization. Is that something? Can they do that now?
Yes.
Yes. So you can actually go and ask your doctor now. Just make sure you keep a record, make a copy of it, get it from school so she can have what she needs. And by the way, our nurse is Mrs. Flair. So. All right. A couple of things that are different from our school versus Oakwood is you can look on your registration sheet. It's in the back of the course description guide. You can see a 7th grade one and an 8th grade one. And it's also, if you didn't have your book with you, it's one of the handouts we gave you as well. But the registration form, if you see a 1-5 class, that means the class lasts all year long, just like English and math and science and Texas history and band and orchestra, choir, Spanish, things like that. They're year-long classes. Half-year courses. And those are things like art and theater and health and wellness and some classes like that. But those last half the year, and then your student will switch classes and take something else the second half of the year. Now, we don't know if they're fall or spring. It just kind of depends on your student's schedule. So it's not a specific semester, but just know that those are half-year courses. All right, required courses. On the top left-hand side of the form, you can see it says English, Math, Science, Texas History, and a class called Keyboarding. These already have X's by them because they are required by all of our students. Keyboarding is a class that teaches them how to type. You know, probably in today's world that if you can't type, it can be very challenging for you. But these are all required courses. Before I go on, keyboarding will be offered in summer school, and I'll tell you about that shortly. So what about advanced classes? Because as you can see on here, there's not a place to mark advanced classes. And what I told your kiddos is, you know, if you want to write advanced class on there, because you just feel the need, and I totally get that. My wife works in this school, and she's one of those ladies that would have to write it on there. It's okay, you can write it on there. Please understand that the decisions for advanced classes won't occur until later this year, and Oakwood makes those decisions. And they'll send us a list, and that's how your student will get into advanced classes if they qualify for those. Those decisions are made by Oakwood because they're the ones who know your student. But these are some of the things that they consider when looking at advanced classes. And how will you know? Well, one, the teachers will let your kiddos know if they qualify or not. And then Oakwood will send a letter to you toward the end of the year that will notify you if your student's going to be in advanced or not. Okay, keyboarding. It teaches touch typing. Basic business office applications. And notice on the very, very bottom, it says that it's a half of a high school credit. And as I told the kids, this is a mistake because your student is only entering 7th grade, but it is correct that keyboarding does count as a half of a high school credit. And so in Texas, there's 26 credits to graduate from high school, and this class will count as half of one of those credits. And so I talked to your students a little bit about what a transcript is, and I'm going to go over it briefly just in case we have folks that aren't familiar with it. But your high school transcript is a list of all your classes and the grades that you make in those classes. So when your student finishes keyboarding, that grade will be placed on your child's high school transcript. Now, what it does not do is it does not count for your student's grade point average, which is something else they calculate at the high school level. And so your child's grade point average, briefly, is when you take a high school class, they assign a point value to the class. If it's an honor class, you can earn up to a 5. If it's a regular class, you can earn up to a 4. If you make a 90, then that would be a 3. 80 would be a 2, and so forth. 85 would be a 2.5. They average all those up at the end of your high school year, and that becomes your grade point average. So I talk to your students about what is the transcript and what is the GPA, and why are those things important. Well, for this course, the keyboarding course, yes, it goes on your students' transcript, but it does not count toward their grade point average. And it is it counts as a 0.5 credit toward the 26 that are required to graduate from high school. There are some exceptions to another one that comes to mind is Spanish. Spanish 1 does not count toward your student's GPA. However, if your student is taking a pre-AP or an honors level course, those will count toward your student's GPA. And I know we have some 7th grade advanced, we have some 6th graders taking 7th grade advanced math. They will likely take algebra next year, and that will go toward their GPA because it will likely be a pre-AP level course. Any questions about transcripts or GPA or how that's? Okay. Again, more keyboarding. Each student must sign up for keyboarding. Lots of students take keyboarding in summer school, and when they do, what I do is I go to the bottom of the page and it says alternates, and I choose their first alternate and I try to place them in that course. We'll talk more about summer school in a little while, but what sometimes happens is I have a student that says, I'm going to take keyboarding in summer, and there'll be more information about it here in a moment. But because they want to take theater, I don't know, I'm just making something up. I can't promise that they'll get in theater. I will do our best. And probably 90% of the time, kids are able to get their first choices, but they're on occasion, sometimes the schedule just doesn't work. So please be aware of that. If you take summer school, you're not guaranteed to get the class that your student wants. We're pretty good at it. 90–95% get it. But there's always a few that unfortunately doesn't work. Okay, athletics. Here's a big topic of the night, probably. Probably half of our students participate in athletics, and it's very important to understand the ins and outs of our athletic programs. First of all, you see that athletics is a full year course. It lasts the entire year. And our students that sign up for athletics, they also must take a health course. Okay? Not all students have to take health. Only students that take athletics, the course called athletics, have to take health. Okay? And then everybody else will take a class called what's about 7th grade issues, about 50/50 is what signs up for health and what signs up for wellness and what signs up for athletics. Notice that wellness is only a half-year course, kind of like health, kind of like E, a little bit of both. There's a policy form that the teachers have over at Oakwood. It's also online, but they are required to have you sign that form. We'll be careful. You have to sign that form in order for me to sign them up for athletics, because there's some things that you have to understand as a parent so that you know what your student is getting into when they sign up for athletics. And so that's required that they turn that form in with their yellow sheet whenever we go back over to see them at Oakwood. Again, athletics is a full-year course. The coaches expect students to try out for 2 courses, 2 sports. That could be football and track, could be volleyball and track. Usually it's track and something else if you want to through. It does require a physical exam from a doctor. Like any PE class your student has ever had, they're very serious. They're trying to get your students ready to play high school sports. And when we put them out on the field, we want to make sure that they're going to be okay. And we can't have students that are not medically ready to be out there because we don't want people to get hurt. Again, the athletic policies form, I think it's called guidelines actually. And they must remain academically eligible. Now, this is what happened in previous years, is your students have been in Oakwood through 6th grade. And most of them have done extremely well. There are some students that struggle with their grades, however. And if your student is one of those students and they have more than 2 6 weeks of failing grades at Oakwood, they're not going to be allowed to sign up for the athletic course. Well, let me back up. They'll sign up for it, but the coach will ask me to change their schedule because they're going to get all the grades because there's no pass no play. And so they expect their athletes to be passing. Another thing that will keep them out of the athletics class is more than 7 days of ISS time for whatever reason. So those are things that the coaches are looking for when they're signing up kids for athletics. Now, what I did not say is I did not say your student cannot participate in sports if they're failing classes. I did not say that. What I'm saying is there is a class called athletics during the school day that if your student is failing, allow them to participate in that class called athletics. We have sports after school. A lot of the guys, what they did this year is they met after school for football, which is typically when all the practices are held, and they eventually proved to the coaches that yes, they are going to pass, and yes, they're going to attend practices, and coaches put them in as soon as they could. I want to make it real clear, I'm not saying your student can't play sports. I'm just saying that if that's your student, that the coaches will probably deny them access to the athletic class that's during the school day. And then health is the, yes ma'am?
Is that also go to choir band?
No ma'am, it's athletics. That's a good question though. And health, we probably all had health when we were going up to the grade class. But our athletes are required, it's a local district requirement that all of our students that participate in athletics have a health course, okay? Okay, these are the sports that we're typically, for boys, it's football, basketball, and track. For girls, it's volleyball, basketball, and track. We have these other sports as well. We have golf, and tennis, and cross country. Golf, and tennis, and cross country. If that's the only sport they're doing, they really don't need to be in the athletic program. Golf and tennis all happen after school. They meet somewhere to go play golf. We don't have golf course here, so they're not working on golf or in athletics. So if your student's only taking golf, let's say they're participating in golf and cross country, then I would say they probably don't need to be in athletics. If they're doing, say, cross country and basketball, then I would say yes, they probably should be in athletics. Any questions? Oh, lots of questions. Yes, ma'am, I'm going to go here first.
My child is doing off-campus PD right now.
Oh, off-campus PD, you want to find questions?
How that will work.
I'm going to talk about it here shortly.
How do you sign up for that?
Those are, how do you sign up for golf and tennis and, after school? Those sign-ups are usually in the spring. I don't know exactly the month, but they're coming up shortly, and it's all after school. And usually those kids that are playing golf and tennis in particular, they have experience doing that. It's not like, I don't know anything about tennis. They play tennis somewhere. Not always, but most of the time that's the case. And one other question here.
Try out for 2 sports. Both sports do not have to be in 4 sports.
Gee, that's a tough one. I don't think so, but the coaches are here. The coaches are here. I do know that there's kids that do cross country and say basketball, or cross country and football, and they're in athletics. And so that's a good question to ask them specifically. I don't believe it has to both be in the top. Good question. Anything else real quick before I move on? Okay. Athletic physicals, they can be expensive, and your student does have to have one each year. It used to be every 2 years, but now it's every year. And there is an opportunity at the high school. Last year it's $10. I don't know if it's going to be the same, but likely it is. They occur in April. We don't know the dates just yet, but just know that that's coming, and it's a very inexpensive way to get your child's physical. And more important than even that, you don't have to worry about where it's at, because the school did it. The coach will have a copy. You don't have to worry about getting those copies to coaches because they will have them. Again, those typically happen in April. I don't know the dates yet. We haven't found those dates yet, but there'll be announcements whenever that comes out. Okay, wellness. Again, wellness incorporates health and PE, along with some basic first aids and some other types of things, but this is a half-year course. Now remember, athletics is a full year, and they have to take health, which is half year. The other option is wellness, and it is only a half-year course. Okay, before I leave athletics, any other questions? I know sometimes it can be confusing. Yes, ma'am.
Are they required whether they get their physical through CSIC or not?
Yes, it's a pretty specific form. It's a UIL form. It's usually available online, and they print out the form and they take that to their doctor. You can probably print it at your doctor's office if your doctor with that. And then in addition to that, there's something called rank 1 that you'll have to fill out also. That's those two things go together for your student to play athletics.
And only for athletics?
Thank you for asking that. It is only for students signing up for athletics. Now, golf, tennis, or cross country, you're not in athletics. Those are all still UIL sports, and they're going to have for those. That's correct. If you're going to be in wellness, there's no physical required. Follow-up question. PE, yeah, it's just health PE combined type class.
So can you take the health course over the summer as credit for wellness?
That's a good question also. She asked you, can you take health in the summer, which is, it's offered in summer, health is, but it does not, it's not the same course, because health is straight health. They require PE parts that you have to have. The kids that are in athletics get that PE part through their athletic curriculum.
So if I have an off-campus PE child.
No, that's a different story now.
And my health, does it count?
You're stressing me out. Can you please escort this lady out of the cafeteria, please? Oh, we're going to be in video. I'm just kidding. All this technology makes me nervous. What you're saying, can you do off-campus PE and take health? The answer is yes. Yes, sir?
Can you take football without taking the athletics?
You can, it's not suggested. The coaches are going to want your child to, the question is, can you play football without being in athletics? You can play any of our sports without being in the athletic course, but if they're serious about it, they need to be in athletics. That struggle with their grades. They'll play after school until their grades are up, and then the coach will place them in. Okay. In the back, yes, ma'am?
So if you teach wellness, do you have to also take PE on this side?
You do not.
Okay.
You do not, and we'll get to that here in just a few minutes. There's one more question, I'm going to move on. Yes, ma'am?
Okay, I have through past experience with my daughter that there's a deadline that you cannot get a physical prior to that date or it's considered invalid.
I believe that's true.
So what is that date? Because if parents go and get it now, it won't count.
I believe it's in April when the new physical comes out. There's a new physical form from UIL. It'll come out. I do believe that's why they have that physical in April. So yes, don't get it beforehand. And thank you for asking that. Wow. I'm going to get Mr. Matthews for being stuck in Atlanta, boy. I tell you. Yes, ma'am.
In athletics, if you take 2 sports, can you not do 1?
Shh, don't say that. She's saying if you're going to be athletics, can you do 2 sports and just not do the other one? I'm not going to tell you that. Coaches want you to try out for 2 sports. That's what I'm going to tell you. Okay. I'm going to move on. All right, Spanish. Spanish 1. It is a high school credit. You take it all the way through 7th grade, and you take it all the way through 8th grade. It's a 2-year commitment. You get 1 high school credit for Spanish. Just for the record, out of the 26 that are required to graduate from high school, 2 of them have to be foreign language credits. This would be one of them by doing all the way through 7th grade and all the way through 8th grade. That would be one of the credits. It is open enrollment. Any student can take it. And this is what I told your students. Is you need to be a fairly good academic student. And this is why. Spanish 1 is not that big of a deal. You'll take your class. Your student needs to be generally passing their classes. They generally need to pass their test the first time they take them and not have to go back and do corrections. So why is that such a big deal? It's not the Spanish 1A or it's not the Spanish 1B that gets them in trouble. It's the Spanish 2 when you move from 8th grade to 9th grade. So you'll have a freshman in a transition year taking Spanish 2, and it could be Spanish 2 honors. And so that can be difficult for a student that struggles with their grades. Now it is an open enrollment. Everybody can sign up for it that wants to sign up for it. I just caution you for that little piece. We have 6 sections of Spanish 1A, and they're all full. I mean, we have lots and lots of kids that sign up for it, and they all do really well. But you just need that little caution about when your student goes from 8 to 9, they're going to have to take Spanish 2 to finish their foreign language credit, and you need to be careful with that piece of it. Yes, ma'am, good question?
GT one.
Oh, did I skip it? Okay, let's just keep going. No. Sorry. Let me make sure there's no more Spanish here. Let me finish the Spanish, I'll go back. All right. As you know, Oakwood is a dual language campus. And there's been several kids in dual language the entire time they've been at Oakwood. Those students are going to take there's a man waving at me from outside. I don't know what he's doing. Hi! Maybe let him in, I'm not sure what he's, okay. Spanish 2 is an honors level course, and there's a test on February the 23rd. And that test is going to be one of the determining factors of which Spanish level your students should take if they're in dual language. If they take Spanish 2 honors, it's an honors level credit, so it goes on the transcript, and it counts toward the GPA. And they're also granted, when they finish the course, they're also granted 2 foreign language credits for high school. The 2 that they have to have, they will grant them at the end of taking Spanish 2. If they're recommended for Spanish 3, it's the same thing. They take Spanish 3 pre-AP, and they get granted 3 foreign language credits for high school. That February 23rd test, if we have any students that are native speakers that can read, write, and speak Spanish, they are welcome, and I encourage them to take this test on February the 23rd. You just need to let your counselor know over at Oakwood, I think Ms. Zumwalt, and she will set them up, and they will go take the test with the dual language again. This is an opportunity that a native speaker should not pass up, and it's a good opportunity for our dual language students. Counselor, I feel the need to tell you the one caution that I do have. I speak fluent East Texas English, okay? I have my whole life. I have no business taking a pre-AP English class, okay? So there are lots of kids that speak fluent Spanish, but maybe they don't always do their homework. Maybe they don't do it so well on tests. They might not want to be in the Spanish 3. I would stick to Spanish 2 for those dual language parents that are in that situation. Okay. Yes.
So is the Spanish 2 also a 2-year, or Spanish 2 switches that 1 year?
Very good question. Spanish 2 is a 1-year course. Spanish 3 is also a 1-year course. Thank you. That I didn't forget. Okay, going back to GT. We have 2 classes that serve our GT is served differently over at our school than it is at Oakwood. Oakwood, I believe they have a pull-out. They go to GT once a week, once a 2 weeks, something like that. Offers 2 classes. One's called GT STEM. We used to call it robotics, and one's called Project Exploration. The robotics, GT STEM occurs in the fall or the beginning of the year. Our AMCMS robotics team goes to a competition. They typically do extremely well for junior high, and they typically beat out a ton of high schools. They almost beat AMCHS 1 year. It was so close. I was so mad they didn't, but it was so close. You do have to be gifted and talented to take the course, but it's optional. If your student is GT, they don't have to take these courses. It's optional for them. Mr. Miles, my student is smart, but they're not necessarily qualified as GT. Can they take it? Unfortunately, the answer is no. This is strictly for gifted and talented students. Mr. Miles, my student is not qualified as GT, but they're pretty smart, but I would like them like GT. Is that possible? The answer is yes. You'll need to contact Mrs. Zumwalt, the 6th grade Oakwood counselor, and she will, they have a GT coordinator. They will test your student to see if they qualify for GT. That occurs, I think, in April. And they'll take these 2 tests, and if they score high enough, then they would be qualified as GT. And then they would let me know, or Mr. Mackins know, that we need to change their schedules. If they are currently in GT, it carries over. If they have ever been GT in our district, they are GT forever. Thank you, that's a good question. I talked about that already. All right, orchestra, band, and choir. Apply for a signature on each of these. The directors asked me to keep the signature on there. But required is probably a little bit strong word, because if your student is an orchestra, I can look up their schedule. And if they don't have the signature, I'm not going to say, too bad, you can't be an orchestra. And so we want them to get those signatures, but if they don't, we can still look that up and find that out. But we have a junior varsity and a varsity orchestra. Most of the time, our 7th graders are in junior varsity orchestra. Band, we have beginning concert and symphonic band, and of course, concert and honor choir. Now, orchestra, if you've not been in orchestra yet, it's a little too late to sign up for orchestra. We do not have a beginning orchestra. We do have beginning band, and they do have a choir that you can join. All 3 of these courses are considered fine arts courses, and they are all year long, the full year. Yes, ma'am. Uh-oh. Got to skip another one? Okay. I thought I asked her to be removed. First, it's off-campus PE, and then it's missed that slide. And now it's this. Who is your kid? I'm just kidding. That's a great question. It's never been done before. I doubt it, but I can find out. Okay. We have lots of other electives that the 7th graders can choose. You can find these on the right-hand side, about the middle of your page. You see it's Art 1, it's Theater 1, it's Careers, it's Practical Law, it's Juvenile Justice, and PE. Please note that students that are enrolled in the class of athletics, they cannot co-enroll in PE. It's against UIL rules. Notice that all these classes are half of a year. We'll go through more of those classes shortly, but we also have AVID. Now, if your student is currently in AVID, this is advancement via individual determination. And if your student is currently in AVID, they do not need to reapply. They've already applied, there's no need to reapply. It is a college preparatory type class. It is targeting a certain group of students. And so there's applications that are going to be available February the 1st at Oakwood, and they're due on February the 28th. And so when your student, if your student is interested in AVID as one of their 7 credits, check AVID doesn't mean you're going to automatically be in AVID. You have to apply, and there's actually an interview. You interview with 2 to 3 teachers before they're admitted into AVID. So the alternates are extremely important in this case, because if your student writes AVID on their form as one of their 7 credits and they don't make AVID, I'm going to go directly down to the alternates, and I will put them in the amount of alternates needed to fill their schedule. AVID is a full year course. Okay, art. Art is pretty much art, and they have new seasonal projects in color. Kids love it. It's always a popular class. We have Theater Arts 1. Ms. Erskine is our current theater teacher. I anticipate her being here next year. What I can tell you about theater is Ms. Erskine, she's a UT alumni, which is unfortunate, but I still like her a lot. She doesn't just teach theater, she lives it. She's involved with troops and outside organizations. She sings in those things. The lady knows what she's talking about when it comes to theater. And there's a lot of games that they play in theater. It helps the shy kids, it helps them get out of that. If you have a shy kid, theater's a great class for them to take. After course. Exploring careers is all about jobs, and I'm sure the kids went, ooh, great, let me take that. But in reality, it's a pretty good class. They use a lot of computer work. I can't think of a better class for them to take. Because when they do move to high school, there's a plethora more of classes that they can take. Careers will help narrow that down for them. It will help them decide things that they're interested in, what they're not interested in. They'll talk about application for jobs and what it takes to get a job. They'll talk about colleges, what kind of degree is needed for certain jobs. So they cover all that in your career course. practical law, which is a basic law course. We have juvenile justice, which is a basic law course that pertains to kids under the age of 18. And just for the record, all of your students think juvenile means prison for kids. That's what they all say. Do y'all know what a juvenile is? Yeah, that's the kids who wear the bracelet. No, it's not those kids. It's the age of kids. So this law class pertains to the younger kids. We do all the law, and I will tell you the follow-up of that high school is pretty amazing. They have an impressive law program at the high school. They offer up to 9 college credits in their law program at the high school, and they can get a certification to be a 911 dispatcher by the time they leave high school. It's a good program that they have. If your kid's thinking about doing anything in that realm, these are good classes. And then PE, which is PE, it hasn't changed in a while. All right, so how many credits can you take? It's 7. You can't sign up for 6.5. You can't sign up for 8. You have to sign up for exactly 7. This information at the bottom of the form is extremely important. What I told your students is every single person in the room has to have 3 alternates. And what my example, I said, Mr. Miles, I'm sorry, I've already signed up for the classes that I want, and I don't want any of these other classes. Is that okay? What I said is sure. And when you turn in your form, I'm going to ask you which 3 alternates you want me to put down, because every student has to have 3 alternates. There are lots of reasons for that. The alternates are not the ones they signed up for. If you signed up for Art 1, Art 1 can't be an alternate. If you take keyboarding and or health in summer, I go straight to the alternates to see what class they're wanting to take in place of that summer school.
If your child is not going to be in music or language or athletics, can they choose more than one elective to build a?
Yes, she's asking if your student's not in like athletics or music or something like that. Yes, you will use the electives to fill their schedule. And they can have up to 4. Okay, summer school. College Station ISD offers both of these classes in summer school, keyboarding and health. Remember, you only need help if your student is taking the class called athletics. Every year we have a student that signs up for health in summer and they're taking wellness. They don't need to need help. Only the students that are taking athletics. Cost is about $100. Actually, I think it was a little bit more than that last year, maybe up to $115. Don't recall exactly. And the registration is in April, in early April. And there are some students that would have to do this. Let me explain that to you real quick. So you got to take English, math, science, and Texas history. We know that. And your student is in athletics, and they're in band, and they're in Spanish. They're missing health and they're missing keyboarding. So in order for them to do that schedule, they would have to have health and keyboarding in summer. It's the only way they can do it. So just realize that there are some students that have to have it. We'll talk about it more in a second. Thank you. Health and keyboarding. There's 2 ways that you can take those classes. When you sign up through CSIC, there is a classroom, typical classroom type class. They start around June 3rd, 4th, 5th, somewhere in there. And they go for like 3 hours a day until they finish the class. There is also an online version of that same class. So what your student would go is the first day or 2, learn how to do the class. They go home and they finish it. Normally it takes students about 2 to 3 weeks to finish either of the courses. And they can take them both in summer school. Thank you for asking that. There is a second way to get keyboarding. There's not a second way to get health, but there is a second way to get keyboarding. And it's through Texas Tech correspondence. I'm not a big fan of this course, I will tell you. Being an Aggie, it would be terrible if I was. But anyway, you must sign up for this online. It probably costs at least twice as much as the CSIXD version. There is some information on your frequently asked questions page about this course. It's probably about, I guess, about a third more work than the CSIXD version of it. And if that's something that you're interested in, and who is this for? It's for people that travel. They're going to Europe, or they're going somewhere over summer, and they just can't take keyboarding because they're not going to be in town, or they can't come the first couple of days for whatever reason. This is an option. I usually have about maybe 5 or 6 kids that do it each year. So just know that it is an option. If you need more information, you're always welcome to call myself or Mr. Mackins. Yes, sir.
So if you're doing it online, the exam is also online, everything.
Everything is online. There will have to be a proctor. Usually the counselors proctor that. And it takes about 30 minutes to take the final exam.
So where do they take the final exam?
Whenever they finish the course.
Oh, but they will have to take it here, or can they do it online?
They will take it here online. They have to be watched. So it's online, but it's online with us. Yes, sir.
So if our kid is traveling then?
If your student is traveling, you could, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a little tangent, I'm going to be very quick, please call me about it later. But Texas Tech, if you speak to Texas Tech, you can get a proctor from somewhere else if Texas Tech approves it. But that's all about Texas Tech, it's nothing to do with us. So if Texas Tech's approved, someone else proctoring it somewhere else, that's fine. But that's up to Texas Tech. Yes, sir.
I mean, just could you wait if you were in Europe, 2 weeks later, come back and then take the final?
Of course.
So.
There's timelines. I think it's like 6 months or something when you sign up to when you have to finish it. If you miss the deadline, they'd like to make you pay more. But yes, you can do that. You just wait and take it with us. Absolutely. Okay, again, can you do the following? Just think through these. English, math, science, history required. Athletics, Spanish, music, fine art, or athletics, Spanish, and added. This type of schedule requires summer school. You have to take both keyboarding and health in summer school if you're going to have all these classes. Here's another example that's a little bit more tricky, and all the kids know the answer, so shh. And off-campus PE, they shh. She's going to mess this up for me. Okay. Can you take English, math, science, history? That's 4. Say band, that's 5. Spanish is 6, and Avid is 7. I can take keyboarding in summer, right? Yes, you can. But this student is missing wellness. So you can't do this unless you're doing off-campus PE and you take health in the summer. But the off-campus PE people, call us and let us talk through that. I don't want to get too much into it right now. We'll throw people for a loop. Off-campus PE. Oh, I forgot I had this slide in. That's what I get. What it is a partnership between College Station and an outside entity or an outside agency. To do with dance or diving or equestrian or something along those lines. And that outside agency applies with the school district to be an off-campus PE site. And if your student is participating with that agency at least 5 hours a week, then they could take off-campus PE. And off-campus PE could look like 2 different things. It can look like your student goes home 7th period, or it can look like your student just doesn't have to take PE while they're in school and they have 7 other classes. If you're thinking that your child might need to do off-campus PE, I highly encourage you, please contact the counselor so we can speak to you. We'll get you the application so that you can further understand this process. Because kids that do off-campus PE, they're getting their PE somewhere else. They have to have health credit because it's a local district requirement. That's why they have to take the health in summer. It's complicated. So if your student is thinking about doing off-campus PE, please call us so that we can talk to you individually. I'm not taking any questions about off-campus PE. All right, and if your student changes their mind, and there's a good chance they will, it's not a problem. You just email us, and if they change it again, just email us again. And the dates to remember, this is when Mr. Matkins and I will be over at Oakwood. We're going to meet with all your students one-on-one to make sure that they have, if they have any questions, we want to help them. Between the 30th and February the 2nd. We didn't tell the kids this, but we're also going to be on the 3rd as a makeup day. We told the kids the latest day is February 2nd, but we're truly going to be there on the 3rd. But just know that we're going to be with every one of your students one-on-one to make sure that their registration is correct and they have everything they need. Okay. Get involved, get involved, get involved. And I say this to the kids, I say it to my 7th graders, and when they become 8th graders, I say it to them as well. There's 3 reasons why I believe students should get involved in school. One of them is research shows it. Every kind of research you look at, you got kids that are involved in school and kids that are not involved in school. The kids that are involved in school, they just do better. They just do better in school. There's no research that says anything different. So that's one reason. Reason number two is your kid's going to enjoy school so much better if they get involved in something at our campus. If you think back to your junior high years, do you remember the genetics lesson? My wife teaches science, and I don't remember anything about genetics lessons. But what I do remember is I remember the band trip, or I remember the FCA meeting, or the trip that we did with those guys, and the different things like that. That's what you remember from your schooling. And so please try to get your students involved. And the last reason is they need to start building their resume for as they get older, because the high school has like 56 clubs or more. And we have a bunch more than what Oakwood has, but we don't have 56. You need to start getting them with the mindset of let's get involved in school, because colleges are looking at that, jobs are looking for that. They don't want just good students, they want students that are involved. So please try to find something for your students to be involved in. How do you sign up for these? Typically, they're signed up during lunch, during the cafeteria time, during the first few weeks of school. Okay, real quick with cheerleading and dance, our cheer sponsor is in the cafeteria. She's also the dance sponsor. There's more information on page 6 and on page 9 of your course description guide. Please know that there is a camp that the students have to attend to be considered for dance or cheerleading. And there is a meeting that is required. If you don't go to the meeting, then you're not going to be in dance or cheer. And there is a gym, but there's a pink form that says how to be a cheerleader. It has all the dates of all the camps and all the things that you would have to do to be a cheerleader or on the dance team. Please note that these are not classes. This is after school stuff. This does not count as one of your 7 credits. More questions that anybody has? Any at all? I'm going to take a few before we dismiss, please. Yes, sir. Sorry? Do they have summer football? No, sir. There is one session for summer school. They wouldn't be able to do that. Yes, ma'am. Real loud, please. Oh my gosh, that's a mess. Talk to me later. That would be difficult. I've never had a student do it, but is it possible? If you took summer school, I think you could. Thank you. I appreciate you coming. I am going to stay here until everybody's questions are answered. You're welcome to come up here. So please be polite, form a nice line somewhere. Thank you again for coming. Thank you.